Hey everyone, welcome to the Connected Families podcast. I'm Stacy and I am so glad you are joining us here today. You know, Connected Families is all about helping parents receive God's grace and truth for themselves and then pass that on to their children through our framework for parenting. If you are not familiar with it, you soon will be, and it's easy to remember. We're going to get into it with Jim and Lynne Jackson, co-founders of Connected Families, in just a minute, but first of all, I want to tell you some super exciting news. You know, we are really new to this podcast world. It's actually, this episode right now is actually only our 11th episode that we're recording. But at the time of recording this, we've only released 4 episodes. And guess what? Here's the news. After our first episode aired, within the first 24 hours, we made number 100 in the top 200 category of kids and family. It's so huge. We are just ecstatic. I'm so excited to be able to tell you that. And then within the first 2 weeks of the second podcast aired, we have listeners in 50 states and over 40 countries. And that's because of you, our listeners. And so we just want to give a huge shout out to you guys and say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reviewing. Thank you for sharing our podcast, because you're the ones that we do this for, and you're the ones that help us get to 100. Well, I just wanted to read quick a review that somebody named Amiko left just like 2 weeks ago. And she says, Connected Families doesn't offer formulas for making my kids behave. They remind me of how God approaches us and makes that the pattern for how we approach our kids. If your family story includes adoption, or you need to use trauma-informed parenting with some of your children like our family does, know that this will be a great fit for your whole family. That's what we love about it. Thanks, Connected Families. You've blessed our family, and the podcast is a great additional resource. Thank you, Amika, for posting that, for leaving that for us and everyone. We appreciate it, and we just encourage all of you, leave a review if you can. It helps us spread the word. We really want these podcasts to be a place where you can get helpful tips to use today. And we also hope that you will walk away feeling more peaceful and confident, knowing that God sees you and knows you. And he knows your exact situation today. He's with you and has abundant grace and truth for your unique circumstances. And so with that, I just want to welcome Jim and Lynne Jackson to the microphone. Hi, Jim and Lynne. How are you?
Good.
Hi, Stacy. We're great.
Isn't it just amazing the reach that these podcasts have had in just 4 released episodes?
I know, it's so fun. I was a little worried that we were sort of late to the podcast game, but it's just been such a great start. Really fun to see the team launch.
Yeah,
like
it's
this.
Amazing to us, Lynn and I, as we think about this and our team together, that so many parents, thousands now, have downloaded these podcasts and have benefited and are being blessed. And we've got more good stuff today, right?
We definitely do. You know, how many years has it been since you started Connected Families?
Well, in 2002, so do the math.
Yeah.
17.
So just give us a word. How does it feel that Connected Families is at the place that it is now after these years?
On one level, it feels overwhelming. Like we never dreamt when we started. I mean, we wanted to do a work that would impact our community and maybe spread out into churches in the Minneapolis area near where we live. And here we are 17 years later with a worldwide impact. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
We're just regular folks. But then on the other hand, like God is behind this. And from the day we started, it was like, God, don't give us any more or any less than what we can take responsibility for. And we've done our best to be stewards of what God's given us and share it. And God has honored that. And there's a lot of people benefiting. And we want to share what we've shared in a way that doesn't depend on Lynn and I to do it, which is why this framework has been so critical for parents to learn the ideas, not depend on Jim and Lynn's stories or expertise.
Right. And we're going to get into that framework. We are going to start to pull apart one of the first things that you teach in the course, which is the message, you are safe with me. Now, today's episode is how to be an emotionally safe parent.
Yeah.
So I want to start off with my first question to you, Jim and Lynne, asking you, how do we combine the ideas of how to be an emotionally safe parent and communicating the message, you are safe with me? Like, define that. What does that mean?
Well, it's really helpful to know what safety is not, because that's where a lot of misconception gets started. It's like, I have to be my child's friend and never say no, or I give in, or I'm passive, or I just let life teach them and I never engage. That's not safe, because kids do need our guidance and our boundaries. But it's also not about stuffing our anger. It's like, I'm going to be calm as I teach you a lesson.
I see your face that's all tight and holding it all in.
Right. When we engage with our anxiety and judgments, but we suppress them so that we're kind of coming across calm, that's not safe either. And that's that emotional safety that our kids really need.
Yeah, I really think safety is about our kids in the grand scheme of things, knowing that we're for them, not against them. And an awful lot of what parents do in the name of being the parent tends to start costing them a sense of closeness, a sense of connected relationship with their kids, because the kids less and less trust their parents in the discipline that their parents put in place for any variety of reasons. And so it's not to say don't discipline our kids when they ought to be disciplined. It's to say that when we discipline our kids, let's be mindful about what it feels like and is experienced through the child's lens.
And that really starts with our heart as a parent. If we go in engaging with our anxiety, it's like, picture a beautiful scene. You're walking through the woods and then you wind around and you come across a lake. But in the background is Jaws music. Dun, 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 dun. By the time you get to the lake, you think something's going to leap out and grab you. You're on your defense. Yeah. And then picture that same scene, but instead your head it's playing Ode to Joy or something at least peaceful. And
that might be a bit of a stretch for me, because I'm a dad, and honestly, I never heard Ode to Joy in my efforts to be safe.
But okay, so we connect this image to a daily experience with your child.
Right. So, it's the thing of, you see the sibling conflict, or you see the big mess, and in your heart you're going, well, this is part of life, and how can I help my child learn something right now? And there can even be a little eagerness in that. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so Lynn, so that picture through the woods really should be littered with Lego toys all over it? Is that what you're saying? You're trying to get through the Legos in your house and you don't want Jaws.
Right.
You want the Ode to Joy.
It's like, wow, I have a really creative child, don't I? And they have some skills in the area of cleaning to learn.
Yeah, and for me, it gets most practical when I recall my own experience as a young dad, replaying how I was taught, and my parents loved me. They were very well intended, but I was scared often. And I remember myself as a young dad coming into a misbehaving child who was doing that thing that I had told them not to do several times, if not more. And I would say, "What is wrong with you?" That's a loaded statement. And I wasn't thoughtful about it at the time. But that kind of statement leads kids to feeling unsafe. Like, Daddy thinks there's something wrong with me. Now, there is something wrong here. It's the behavior, it's the choices, but it's about behavior, not about identity. And so at the core, we start right away in our brain to pick apart the difference between labeling behavior and labeling identity for our kids. You're a problem, you're a pain, there's something wrong with you, versus there's a problem here that needs to be taken care of. And you created the problem. How can I help you take care of it?
A lot of parents, they know not to go in with what's wrong with you, but they do things that really communicate that message, like, this is not okay, or why did you do this again? The underlying message is still, what's wrong with you, as opposed to, wow, we've really got quite a problem here, don't we?
And in the course, we do role plays that really take this apart and help parents kind of start to understand what kind of messages their kids might be getting from them that are unsafe, and start to examine whether those are the messages they want their kids to get or not.
Right, and I know that this is the beginning of the course, which is also the bottom of, we call it the framework. It's the first message that we want to communicate to our kids. You are safe with me. So why is this the foundation? Why is this where you start?
Well, it's because the other messages really don't land if kids feel unsafe.
And those other messages?
The other messages are, you're loved no matter what. If kids don't feel safe, they feel manipulated by any kind of affection.
Sure.
And then the message, you are called and capable, of a wiser response. That, without a sense of safety and love, then that just becomes, I want to fix you because you are bugging me. And then a message of you are responsible can just become, I really just want to punish you to satisfy my need for control. So we do want to get kids through kind of that whole process of letting them know they're safe and loved, but they are capable of a wiser response and they're responsible to make right what they've made wrong. If we don't give them that safety message first, then we usually get derailed, because then it just becomes about the conflict between mom and child as parent is trying to punish the child.
Yeah.
And the discipline efforts get derailed and the kids don't learn what they need to learn from the situation.
Right. So I know a lot of parents come into the course and they're like, I need help fixing this.
Yeah.
I need to keep my kid in bed at night. I'm just, tell me how to do that.
Yep.
And yet we spend a lot of time on all of those messages, right? Especially safe in the beginning. There's 2 sessions there, and there's loved and called and capable. And then we get to you are responsible, where we work through that.
So when the child doesn't go to bed, what unsafe tends to look like is, how many times do I have to tell you 9 o'clock is your bedtime? And if you don't get in there right now, you're going to be grounded, or you're going to be spanked, or you're going to be punished somehow, and you're going to lose privileges like crazy. And the child just withers in fear, and they either act out or they comply because they're scared. And then eventually they go to bed. And putting kids to bed at 9 o'clock might be a thing, but safe might be like this. I know you don't like a 9 o'clock bedtime. But even before I would say that, I would go, okay, I want to be a different parent. I want my child to receive messages of grace from me and truth from me. And so, Lord, help me know that this situation doesn't define me.
So that's checking the music that we talked about, right?
There's
That's the music.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the music, right?
And then there's like the deep breath. And, child, I know 9 o'clock is hard for you, and getting ready in the last 5 minutes has been difficult. So how can we work together tomorrow night to get you started sooner so that you can be successful at bedtime at 9 o'clock? For tonight, I'm going to be with you through this process. Let's just get you in bed as quickly as we can so that tomorrow night we'll have a better plan.
I love that. And so as a mom, let's make the bedtime 7 o'clock, Jim. Not 9 o'clock, okay? I was like, 9 o'clock? He said 9 o'clock?
Sure,
that is
depending
way
on the age
too
of the-
late.
9 o'clock was the last imprint in my brain from my own childhood
your
bedtime.
funny, No, I love all that.
But whatever the bedtime is, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
But what's the process?
Yeah.
And how am I sure to be safe and to be loving while holding my kids accountable to grow in capability and take responsibility for being in bed when they need to be in bed?
And the online course gives lots of tools, doesn't it,
Yep.
for asking that question. So we've framed it as far as the music in your head.
Right.
But in the online course, we ask the question, what's going on in me? We talk a lot about that, and we dig into that quite a bit there.
Because that makes the difference between gritting your teeth and trying to act like you're calm and really going in with God's grace and truth in your heart.
Yeah.
That's the key to this whole thing,
Yeah.
is going in with God's grace and truth in your heart.
So good, Lynn. So good, Jim. Well, we have so many free resources on our website. We love giving lots of free things, don't we?
We do.
And one of them that I just want to talk about right now and offer to all of our listeners is a free download ebook that we call 4 Messages Every Child Longs to Hear. So we've talked about the messages today in the framework that you are safe, you are loved, you are called and capable, and you are responsible. And this is going to give you just a quick snapshot of them. So I just want to offer that to all of our listeners. Go to our website, connectedfamilies.org. You can also find that in our show notes. While you're on our website, check out the Discipline That Connects with Our Child's Heart online course. It runs for 2.5 months, and we do that. It only runs 2 times a year, but we do that so that we can build community in that place. And so I just welcome you to find out that information. Well, Jim and Lynne, this message of you are safe is a really powerful one, and it is the foundation that we were saying. And there was a mom who took the course last fall. This mom has gone through some really hard times in her life. She's a single mom right now. Her husband just left her, and her daughter have really gone through a lot of trauma. And so I get to be the online course moderator, and I walk all of the families through the course, which means that I email them and answer their questions. I comment and reply to their questions on the course. And so I got to know her on the course, and I called her, find out more about her story, and ask if she would give a testimonial. And she said she's more than happy to. Because of her situation, we've been careful to change details of her story. But I want you to just listen in, everybody, to hear her story of how she has applied this message, you are safe with me, to her and her daughter's situation dealing with trauma.
So we've had someone else read this to disguise her voice.
That's right. Listen in.
My 7-year-old daughter and I are recovering from the trauma we experienced with my ex-husband, who recently left us. He had addiction and mental health issues, and my daughter saw and experienced things she should not have had to. This made her anxious and led to many intense, verbally hurtful, and even physical blowouts. mostly at bedtime when she'd start to think and remember. I usually dealt with her behavior by urging her to just get under control and just to stop it, but it just kept getting worse. I found Connected Families online after reading a ton of other parenting books, and when I heard the teaching on the message, "You are safe with me," it changed my perspective and totally transformed our lives. I started to understand how important safety was for my daughter, especially at bedtime. Before the course, I used to either leave her alone or just lecture her about stopping her aggressive words and actions, but this just seemed to get her even more angry. Since taking the course, I'm learning to use empathy and validate the total unfairness of what has happened. And I've learned to say things like, "I understand there is so much going on." I even started to stay in her room until she fell asleep every night. It was hard because she didn't fall asleep until 9:30 or 10 most nights. I made a big sign and I hung it in her room that said, "Child, you are safe with me," and another one that said, "I love you no matter what." I cried when I made them. It was like I was putting a stake in the ground, and no matter what her and I had gone through, I'd be there for her in the way that she needed, and that we would get through this. It took 10 months, but just this week, my daughter said that she didn't need me in the room anymore, and she fell asleep all on her own. She still has big emotions and anxiety, but the more I give her that safety, the less anxious and angry she is. It seems so simple, but when we put it into practice, it's so powerful. As a single parent going through a really difficult situation, it was intimidating to join this online course and community. Even though I brought up difficult issues, my questions were met with grace and compassion, and I felt like I really mattered to Jim and Lynne. And when they did the live online question and answer session, they answered my specific questions. More than anything, this course gave me the belief that I can get through this time and raise my child well through it all. I will recommend it until I'm blue in the face.
So I just love that story. It's about a mom who just came through the worst of stuff.
Right.
And it really started when she had that realization. It was easy to just blame the dad and blame the situation, but she said, well, what am I contributing? I just never thought the way I was handling it was part of the problem. But that self-realization, that authenticity, that look at her own heart was just, it was the starting place for it. And then how that worked out was just, when she then went and changed how she responded to her child was
I
just
loved
so
it.
awesome.
I loved the point where she said, I just put a stake in the ground.
Yeah.
I put a stake in the ground. And wasn't that just so powerful when she said, it was tears in my eyes as I wrote the messages, "You are safe with me." It was powerful.
Yeah.
And now, without mom being forceful about it in the least, child goes to bed without difficulty, peacefully.
It took time and persistence. This isn't the magic fix.
No.
It's not the quickie solution that makes me feel in control. It's like I'm parenting the way I know I want to parent.
Yes.
And over time, this is going to get us somewhere.
Yes.
And it did. And, a child that goes to bed with high anxiety is not going to sleep easily. A child that goes to bed with a message, you are safe, loved, capable of doing this, you're responsible, just all those things. It's such a game changer.
So thank you so much to this mom for allowing us to share her story. And she told me she just wanted to be useful to so many people. And so we know that it is by sharing it today.
And when I coach parents, I see that when parents start by looking at themselves, going inside and determining to be safe, then that's the first domino in really powerful changes in their family.
So good. Thanks, Jim and Lynne.
Thank you. It's really fun to be here and to get started covering this very important topic.
I know we cover it in depth in the online course. So if we've created some thoughts, if there's some stirrings going on in you by hearing our conversation today, I just really recommend that you go to our show notes and check out our Discipline That Connects with Your Child's Heart online course. And I'll be there with you going through the course, so I hope to see you there. Our next episode, we're going to cover the message, "You are loved no matter what." That's the second line in our framework that we talked about today. It really is all about connection, even when it's really hard. So thanks for being with us, everyone.